Well, hello there, math analysis. Today we are talking about the composition of functions. Okay, so this deals with our function operations unit that we've been talking about, and we've done addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and now we're actually composing functions. Okay, blending them together to create a whole new function. So the composition of f with g, denoted by this f open circle right here, f open circle of g. You may have talked about in other classes like almost like fog or goth. Okay, it's defined by f of g of x. So what is happening here? Well, what you need to know is that the domain of f of g of x is the set of domain values of g whose range values g of x are actually the domain of f. So you can think about it like this. Let's say we have these two little functions here. I don't need my highlighter anymore. Erase. Let's say we have these two little function machines here. We're going to call them little machines. Okay? We'll make this one function g and this one function f. X is going to go into g. What comes out is g of x. Okay? So x is the domain. It goes into g. It now comes out as g of x. That's the output. Input x, output g of x. G of x now goes into f to give us f of g of x. So it's kind of cool. Now, let's get into some examples with this. All right. Number one. Let's start off nice and easy and say f of x equals 12x minus 3. And then we'll go with g of x equals 5x minus 6. Part A. I want to find f of g of x. So what that means, and a way to think about it is, okay, g of x. That is f of 5x minus 6. So everywhere in f that there's an x, I'm replacing that with 5x minus 6. Now I need to simplify this expression. So I'm going to distribute that 12, 60x minus 72 minus 3, combine like terms, put it in a pretty little box. Okay? Again, f of g of x. G of x is 5x minus 6. So I'm going to take f of that number. The very first thing we did in this unit was find f of 2, f of negative 7. And you said, oh, everywhere there's an x, replace it. Still the same concept, but instead of replacing it with a single number, we're replacing it with another function. Let's go the other way. Let's go with g of f of x. Notice the new notation. Still means the same thing. All this means is g of f of x. So that is everywhere in g, I'm going to replace it with the function represented by f of x. So in g, that's 5 parentheses 12x minus 3, then subtract the 6. 60x minus 15 minus 6, or 60x minus 21. Notice f of g of x does not equal g of f of x. They are going to yield different functions. Let's go again. Number 2. Let's say w of x is x squared minus 9. And let's go with y of x equals 3 minus 4x. Same thing. We're going to go both ways. We're going to start with finding w of y. So what that means is that's w of y of x. Meaning everywhere in w, I'm going to replace it with 3 minus 4x. Now, do you need to write this out every single time? No. You need to do what works for you. But if it makes sense to write it out, then write it out. So, 3 minus 4x quantity squared minus 9. What does it mean to square something? That means multiply it by itself. So now we have a binomial times a binomial that we're going to multiply out. I wonder if you guys can hear that. My husband's getting ice upstairs. The ice machine is very loud. Sorry if you can hear that. 9 minus 12x minus 12x plus 16x squared. Then subtract the 9, and we combine like terms to get a final answer of 16x squared minus 24x. Box. Alright, now let's go the other way. B. Y of w of x. So, what that means is now in y, I'm going to replace it with x squared minus 9. 3 minus 4 instead of x, replace it with x squared minus 9. How do I simplify this one? Oh, distribute the 4 and combine like terms. Again, these answers are very different. They're not going to be equal. Okay? So, in part A, it was a little tricky. You had to square that. That's what happens when you have some quadratics. So, just be careful with that. Let's go ahead and have you guys try one. Number 3. Let's go with L of x equals x squared minus 2x. And let's go with P of x equals 2x plus 1. Alright, so what I want you to do is go ahead and try to find L of P of x and go the other way. Try to find P of L of x. Alright, pause the video, try these two, come back, and then we'll go over the answers. Alright, let's check our answers. Here we go. L of P of x. That would be set up as 2x plus 1 quantity squared minus 2 times 2x plus 1. Boiling out or expanding 2x plus 1. Remembering that squared is multiplying by itself. That's going to give you 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 minus 4x minus 2 when you distribute that 2. And we end up with 4x squared minus 1. Over here, 2 times, or replacing x with x squared. Now we'll say distributing the 2. So 2x squared minus 4x plus 1. How do we do? Hopefully well. Remember, have questions, jot them down. We'll go over them when I see you guys next. Alright, we're going to do one more thing with function composition. And we need some functions for this. Number 4, f of x equals 2x squared minus 7x plus 3 plus 3. Oh my goodness, what you guys can't see is there's this like bar here, and it's making me write upwards. Because every time I try to go to the very top of the screen, it hits it and it drags it down. And it's not what I want. It's driving me nuts. But that's okay. You guys can't see it. And so you just think I'm a crazy person, but you already know that I am, so that's okay. Here we go. F of x, g of x. No, we're not finding f of g of x. What I actually want to find is f of g of 2. Now, there's two different ways you can do this. You can start by finding f of g of x and then plug in 2. I think that method is a little longer and you have the opportunity to make some more mistakes. Instead, I'm saying, okay, let's find g of 2. G of 2 is 3 times 2 minus 1, also known as 5. So if I find that, then now I'm going to say that's the same thing as finding f of 5, which is 2 times 5 squared minus 7 times 5 plus 3, which I'll bring that down here and say that that's 5 squared is 25 times 2, 50 minus 35 plus 3, also known as 18. I personally find that to be easier. You're dealing with numbers rather than having to FOIL and expand functions and combine like terms. I think it's easier. But again, you could totally try it that other way. Let's go again. G of f of negative 1. Remember, if it helps you, that can be written as g of f of negative 1. Doesn't matter to me if you rewrite it, but if it's helpful to you, then rewrite it. First thing I would find is f of negative 1. F of negative 1 is 2 times negative 1 squared minus 7 times negative 1. Wow, I didn't even hit the erase button. Okay. 7 times negative 1, then plus 3. So what that gives me is 2 plus 7 plus 3, also known as 12. Okay, so f of negative 1 is 12. So then I'm able to come back to g and find g of 12. Well, that's 3 times 12 minus 1, or 36 minus 1, or 35, and that's our final answer. So that's something that we can do with function composition and evaluating numbers at the same time. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you in class, or the next class we meet, and have a great day.